Right, morning boys and girls. So we're going to do our second experiment today, but let's just do a little bit of recapping, and that is we were looking at different solutions and what is a solution. So we said a solution is when you dissolve something, usually a solid, into a liquid. So that solid we call a solute, and the solvent is the water phase or the liquid phase. So we can take something like salt and add it to water, the solvent, and with a little bit of stirring, we can get a solution. Now, we can use different things to make it dissolve faster or slower. If we talk about the speed at which something dissolves, then we are actually referring to the rate of dissolving. And that's what these three experiments are all about, and we're going to do them this morning. So, let's get started with number one. The first one we want to ask ourselves is, does the temperature, make a difference to the rate of dissolving? So we're going to be working on the experiments that are in your books. Right, well let's look and see what we've got here for today. We have two beakers. I've labeled one hot and one cold. And I have two measuring cylinders. We're going to put cold water and hot water into them. I have a pen, I have my timer, and I have some salt. So we're going to put the salt into these two. So remember, when we do an experiment, we must know what is the same and what is different. So the things that are going to be the same is the amount of water, which we will measure with a measuring cylinder, the amount of salt that we are going to put in there, and what we do with them is we are going to stir them the same. What is different is the fact that one is hot and the other is cold. It's the temperature that is the different thing. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is to put in the same amount of salt into each one. So remember, when you work with these spatulas or spatulas, we've got to make sure it's the same one. So we scrape it off and we make it flat and smooth, like that. And so I'm going to put 1 spoon into this one and exactly the same into the next one. Same amount, 1 spoonful of salt into each jar. Right, now I'm going to put these ones here for us to stir with, because we do need to stir. I've already measured the cold water, but I'm just going to get the hot water quickly. So there I've put my hot water in, and now we are ready to start our stopwatch. And we are going to time it, and the minute we see one of them has finished dissolving, then we're going to take the reading, but we'll carry on until the second one has dissolved. So same person stirring, same amount of stirring. Are we ready? Get set, and let's pour. Start the stopwatch. And here we go. I'm going to look at the bottom and see if I can see any crystals. Yeah, this one's gone. This one still has crystals. Did we get a reading there? No more crystals. This one still has some. Done. 25 seconds and 11 seconds. Right. So those you need to write down, because when you write up your experiment, you need to know exactly how many seconds it took for each one. So what can we say? Hot water definitely makes a difference. So temperature makes a difference. Almost half the amount of time was recorded for that one. Right, so now experiment number 2. This says we are going to investigate the influence of stirring on the rate of dissolving. So once again, I have unstirred and stirred. We're going to put 80 milliliters of water into each one. So I've already measured off the water in there. But into each one of these, you've guessed it, the same amount of salt into each container. So we're going to do this again. Oh, got my hands all there, my gross here. Measure it off, make it nice and flat and even. And so we'll put into that one. And into the next one. Oh, it's nice and smooth. And so each container has its own salt. All right, so now we are going to put the same amount of water into each one, and we are ready now with our timer, and only one is going to be stirred. All right, are we ready? And let's start the timer, and here we go with stirring. Does stirring make any difference? I don't see any dissolving taking place there. I can see all the crystals still there. This one still has crystals in it. Still crystals. Oh, there's only one or two really big fatties in here now. Are we ready? Yes, let's stop. So this one took 32 seconds, and we're going to leave this for another 2 minutes so that we can just see that within 3 minutes has anything dissolved with no stirring. But it looks the same. The crystals are still on the bottom. I don't see any sign of those crystals dissolving. So what is the conclusion that we can draw from this? Obviously, stirring makes a big difference to the rate at which something dissolves. So while we're waiting, I just want to remind you, you're going to be working on a worksheet, and you're going to fill in the answers. It's going to follow the scientific investigation procedure. So remember those beakers that I had on the wall in my classroom? You're going to follow through that. You can check it up in the front of your workbooks and make sure that you are following the correct form as you write up the answers. Right, well, we are now a long while into this, and we still haven't got any sign of dissolving. Right, so this is our third experiment, and that is where we're going to see if the grain size makes any difference. So once again, I've got my 2 jars marked, large grains and small grains, and for that we are going to use sugar. I have some little sugar crystals that are in cube form, and then of course the others that are just granular sugar. So we can't make the same. Remember, it's got to be the same. The only way that we can do the same is by weighing them. So I'm going to weigh the cube first. So I'm going to put this on my scale, and then I'm going to tear it, so it's going to go down to 0. Then we'll find out what the weight is of this sugar. Put it in there, and there we are. We've got it on 4 grams. Right, so now we're going to weigh 4 grams of sugar. Let's get that one onto 0. And now we're going to put in our sugar until we have 4 grams. We're going to go right with it there. Okay, so we've got our 4 grams of sugar. So now we've got let's remove this one. We've got the 4 grams of sugar, and the large grain will be the cube. So here we're going to go again. I have my 80 milliliters of water, and we're going to put them in there. They're both going to be stirred, and we're going to do the timing. All right. Right, so let's put the sugar in. 4 grams of each one. And now I'm going to put the water in, and we're going to press start as soon as it goes in. Right, let's start. And now we're going to stir like crazy, and we're going to see which one dissolves first. And we want to know how long it's going to take to dissolve. Yes, I can see grains in both. Still grains in both. Small one seems to be losing grains faster. We're now on 38 seconds. Still grains in both. Yep, still a few. Just a few. We still have a couple of big grains there. I don't want to dissolve it, but our large one has still got a big clump of sugar in it. 1 minute and 21 seconds. Right, I don't see any more there. So we're at 1:35, and let's carry on with this one. Don't stop it. Okay. This one has to be okay. Still good. Oh, that's 2 minutes already. So it brings us definitely to make progress. Same amount of sugar, same amount of water, same amount of stirring. I'm going to much longer than the other. I'm going to do half minutes. Oh, again, it goes in half. I think we can call that a day. 3 minutes and 25 seconds to get the sugar to dissolve for the large ones. Right, well, boys and girls, that brings us to the end of this experiment. So your job now is to write these 3 experiments up correctly in the paper that I have given you. And if you don't find the paper on the internet, then please remember you can just write it following the pattern that I've given you as reference in your workbooks. Thank you for being with us. This has been a fun day. I hope you've enjoyed doing the experiments, and we'll see what comes up next time. Cheers!